Anna Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, Scotland cannot afford this distracted, divided and incompetent SNP government. And look past all the shouting, our country is facing the greatest challenges since the creation of this Parliament. Over 800,000 people on an NHS waiting list. Increasing violence and falling standards in our schools. Police numbers being cut and crimes not being investigated. I would remind Mr Brown that we are talking about his constituents as well who are suffering these consequences. Police numbers being cut and crimes not being investigated. Almost 10,000 children living in temporary accommodation. Millions of pounds wasted on failed projects and our economy flatlining while the huge potential of our people is squandered. But yet again, the SNP are putting party before country and their own problems before the people of Scotland. So isn't it the case that regardless of who the SNP impose, they won't be able to fix this mess and deliver the change Scotland needs?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I don't obviously agree with that in the slightest. What I would say about some of the issues that Anna Sarwar has raised, of course there are challenges, particularly in the face of a recovery from a global pandemic. But the NHS and our public services, what we are doing is we're choosing to invest in those public services as opposed to tax cuts for the wealthy, which of course is the choice of the UK Conservative Party, but it seems now also the choice of the UK Labour Party. And Anna Sarwar once stood in a platform of progressive taxation, but that, like all of his other principles, has gone out of the window. So Anna Sarwar asks us to concentrate on the day job. Can I remind him that it was Anna Sarwar and his party that yesterday brought forward a motion of no confidence to this Parliament that they knew that they were going to lose. And due to that waste of time, we had less time to debate justice and compensation for the WASPy women. And perhaps, Presiding Officer, Anna Sarwar wanted it that way. Because for all of the photographs he takes with the WASPy women, for all of the warm words, for all of the hugs he gives to the WASPy women, it was a disgrace that the Labour Party, led by Anna Sarwar, abstained on a motion that demanded full compensation for women who have suffered such a disgraceful injustice. So while we're getting on with the day job, while we're getting on with serving the people of Scotland, Anna Sarwar and his Labour Party are U-turning, flip-flopping, deflecting, and don't think that the people of Scotland can't see through that.
Anna Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, things are going so well, he's stepping down this week, and he's now giving us political advice after the week he's just had himself. I don't think you could make it up, because regardless of the list that the First Minister wants to read out, it doesn't reflect the lived reality for people in Scotland right now under this SNP government. And so, while our country is crying out for change, what is the SNP's answer? An internal stitch-up and more of the same. Either the man who broke the public finances, or who was the worst education secretary in the history of the Scottish Parliament, or the Deputy First Minister that deleted evidence to the COVID inquiry, and the man who has been at the heart of this incompetent SNP government for the past 17 years, or the former Deputy First Minister who many on her own benches say should be more akin to Douglas Ross's party than her own. Both represent chaos. Both represent division. Both represent more of the same. After 17 years of incompetence and failure, is this really the best the SNP has to offer?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, Anna Sarwar talks about leadership stitch-ups. He should know about that. Just ask Richard Leonard about what he did about leadership stitch-ups, Presiding Officer. Our record, Presiding Officer, has seen more young people going to university from deprived areas than ever before. Our record, of course, has delivered over 128,000 affordable homes. Our record has established Social Security Scotland, 14 benefits, 7 of which are only available in Scotland, including the Scottish Child Payment, game-changing Scottish Child Payment, lifting 100,000, estimated to lift 100,000 children out of poverty through our anti-poverty measures. And Anna Sarwar talks about what the government has been doing over the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've announced £80 million of additional funds to ensure that we boost our affordable housing stock. On top of that, we confirmed £11 million of grant funding for public bodies such as leisure centres. And what have Anas Sarwar and the Labour Party done in the last 2 weeks? They voted against keeping the promise to care experienced children. They are going to water down their plans for workers and announce that on May Day of all days, Presiding Officer. And once again, disgracefully, they refuse to back justice and compensation for the WASPy women, a betrayal, Presiding Officer, that they will not be forgiven for.